Okay, so in this video, we're going to discuss the spinal cord, part of the brain. So let's get started right here. So when we look at the spinal cord part of the brain, one thing we realize is this area right here, this is the pons, and we'll discuss on a different type of, on a different video, the cranial nerves that exits along the pons and the medulla oblongata region as well. All right, in this one, we're just going to talk about the spinal cord as well as some of the nerves that might come out, as well as the plexus. So when you take a look at the spinal cord region right here, you'll notice that it starts up and it's very different, right? You'll notice that the region of the medulla ends right here. Anything below it is going to be in the spinal cord region. So there is no definitive end to the medulla. It just continues down as a spinal cord. Like we mentioned before, the brain and spinal cord mature together and were formed together in utero. So this area right here is an area of the cervical vertebrae, C1, and all the way over here at C7. All right, and we'll notice that you're gonna see these little knobs right here. It looks like little spiders that follows throughout the length of the spinal cord. This is your sympathetic ganglia. Remember, the sympathetic ganglia contains cell bodies that will then have axons that will go to the heart, the lungs, and even the eyeball, allowing you to the pupils to dilate the eyes so then you can get more light information and light stimuli into the eyeball and into the brain. So this is that sympathetic ganglia. We'll talk more about that in lecture. This region of the spinal cord is the cervical region, and from C1 to C4, the cervical region will then produce the cervical plexus. Out of the cervical plexus, one very important one comes all the way down. That is your, especially this one right here, this is your phrenic nerve, and it's formed by branches of the ventral ramus from C4, C3, C4, and C5. So what else do we notice? Down here, the spinal cord is pretty big in the cervical regions. And the reason why is because of the next set of plexus. These are your brachial plexus. The brachial plexus will form all of the nerves that goes to your arm. So your axillary, your suprascapular, your musculocutaneous, your radius, your ulnar, your median nerve, all are formed by the ventral rami that forms the brachial plexus here, from C5 to T1. Now, if you're receiving all this sensory information from your limbs, it makes sense that the spinal cord in this region will be pretty big. So this is the cervical enlargement. As we move down the spinal cord, look at how narrow it gets. The reason why is because it's going to receive less sensory stimulation, because in the thoracic region, and we know it's thoracic because you see ribs, right? In the thoracic region, all you have are sensory neurons from the chest region, which isn't a lot of muscles. And you also have only motor output to the chest region, which also are very few muscles in that thoracic region. Because of that, the spinal cord thins out in the thoracic region. As we move further ahead or further down, you enter this region that is directly below the thoracic region. This is the lumbar region right here. And in the lumbar region and immediately above it, superior to it, the spinal cord thickens again as it receives information from your legs and your feet and your toes. And you have to send motor output to your legs, to your feet, to your toes. So that's why you have these enlargements in the lumbar region, the cervical region. The thoracic region is very narrow as a result as well. Now, if you take a look, the spinal cord itself tapers to a little point. This point where it tapers is called the conus medullaris. And then you see a little bit of pia mater coming all the way down. If you follow it down, notice that the spinal cord or the spinal nerves down here doesn't have any bumps. The reason for it is that this region that continues from the conus is actually part of the pia mater and contains no sensory neurons or motor neurons. This is over here and it's called the filum terminale, and the main purpose is to anchor the distal spinal cord in place. As we move up a little bit more, you'll notice that the spinal cord right here ceases at about L1, L2, right? This area where it ceases is called the conus medullaris, and then you'll have spinal nerve that comes from it. This whole region, starting a little bit below your last thoracic vertebrae, all the way down into the sacrum. This whole region, including the conus medullaris, is called the cauda equina, right? That's a cauda equina all the way down. This whole region, if I would have brackets all the way down into the sacrum. And then you'll see that you'll have lots of spinal nerve that still exits out, but the spinal nerve that exits out at the cauda equina are no longer bundled tight together into a functional cord. This makes it very safe to do spinal taps, spinal epidurals, spinal blocks in this general vicinity.